Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen, where we interview the world's highest quality communicators, professionals, business owners, creatives, and everything in between. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're a high quality communicator, there's a good chance you're living a lot happier life, but you're also bringing those opportunities into your life almost like a magnet. My guarantee is that on this show, we only interview people that I, one, look up to, and two, that I know are going to continue to kill the game for years to come, and I want to make sure they're on your radar. But what I've learned is by asking the best questions, we get the best responses, and that's what the highest quality communicators, our social sellers, are all about. Let's hop inside to the Social Seller Podcast. Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast. I'm not sure what episode we're on, and I am beyond excited. We have been trying to get this interview together for a long time. Now, for anyone that knows me well, knows this is the other co-founder in Uptown Creation, one of my closest friends, Cozzolino, aka Cozzo. Not only is he a co-founder in Uptown Creation, a B2B sales development company, he runs the back end, bringing sales to companies of all shapes and sizes, and brings such a crazy, awesome background and knows how to educate. Now, not only is he a co-founder and a marketer, he's an investor, and we're gonna talk about that later, and towards the middle to end, we will dive into NFTs and some things that really excite us with the blockchain and where we kind of see the future, and we'd love your feedback too. On top of all of this, you also lead global initiatives and get to speak with LinkedIn to business owners around the world now with the Sales Navigator communities. You're a quality dude. You grew up in Chicago, born and raised. We met in college. Cozzolino, thank you for being here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to make like the first legit piece of content since we were back in college, filming stuff on our phones and everything. So it's a good feeling.
Straight up. And we were creating everything at just, cell phones. We were talking about that before, as you know, this is some new camera and gear for us because we don't have a videographer. We're here in Iowa today at your place in Iowa City, where we both met at the University of Iowa. And I'm excited because you are one of the smartest people I know. You know how to communicate the very technical and hard to understand stuff in a way that it seems like a lot of people understand. And I know it's not just for myself, it's for other people on our team, in the value you put on our YouTube channel too. So to give some context, and let's just dive in because we get asked this often, how did we originally meet? And I want to hear it in your terms. Like even before the business, did you know anything about me? How did we come in contact? Tell that story.
Yeah. So before I even knew the word entrepreneurship, I was selling physical products on Amazon and flipping them between Amazon and eBay. And that kind of got me involved in the entrepreneurial community at the University of Iowa. And then I saw a way to get my friends here over the summer, basically, was the first summer accelerator that the University of Iowa was going to host. You come in with a business idea, you had to apply for it, go through an interview process to get it. Long story short, my team got admitted into it. So then I was part of that first cohort at the University of Iowa to do the summer accelerator program. I was able to have my buddies from other schools come in, spend the summer here, and that was a lot of fun. But that was kind of my first window into the entrepreneurial community at the University of Iowa. What I like to say is I didn't even know the term entrepreneurship really, and I didn't even know how big of an entrepreneurial community the University of Iowa had. So I think we're both fortunate that we were able to do things at the University of Iowa. Amen. And have those people to cultivate that environment. But after that summer accelerator went by, I still didn't know who you were. But then the ongoing thing that the entrepreneurship community at the University of Iowa did was they had the Founders Club. So the Founders Club, which you and I were both a part of, was kind of the scrappy entrepreneurship type people at the University of Iowa that had ideas, and it was all levels of people that just had an idea and weren't even started, all the way up to people that were doing six figures in companies. And I know you like to tell it that I got introduced to the Founders Club and you were just blown away by the sales numbers that people were able to throw out, but that was mainly the power of Amazon. So I didn't think anything of it. These were sales coming from Amazon. It was physical products. You're able to do big numbers with it. But I know that's what sparked your interest, and then you actually reached out to me as the networker you are. And I remember the first time that we had a meeting, we were talking about the Amazon stuff, and I knew you were recording me, But you didn't know that I knew. But I don't think like it mattered either way.
I still don't know how you knew because I had my phone in my pocket from what I remember.
I'm an observant dude. That's just built into me. I need to know what's going on in rooms that I'm in. But I remember that, like, I didn't like you at first. And I've told you that before.
Exactly. I want this to be
And it's because, like, you're too nice of a guy that I read it as, like, fakeness and, like, you trying to, like, butter me up for something. And then I, like, threw up my guard, like, okay, why is this guy being nice to me? Why is he trying to butter me up? But after a lot of interactions with you then, I realized that you weren't trying to butter me up for anything. You had your own company, I had my own company. I think we just had like minor interactions, like business owners do, just having the conversations. And then you went into the summer accelerator with a team, my first year of pharmacy school. So I graduated undergrad, so I had done 4 years at the University of Iowa, and then I entered pharmacy school. And
you and me were dabbling together in Amazon, remember?
Yeah.
You taught me off that, like we both had our own companies, but then you were doing Amazon, and I was like, oh shit, no one's like doing it like this, right? And
exactly.
We were working together, but on different Amazon stores, from what I remember, drop shipping.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, like this next thing was coming out, FBA, and I was like, hey, like if I can pull some cash together and like we can get some investors, do you think we could do this, like run this together? And dude, it's funny hearing you tell the story because I didn't remember that until now.
Yeah.
Like how I want to leave that detail in because like there never was really a plan. It was like, damn, we liked each other, and you know, at first it wasn't like that for me. It was just a curiosity. I was like, oh shit, I need to be around you. I know you're doing something different. You're thinking probably a little different. You dressed a little different than anyone else in the Founders Club that day.
Yes.
Anyway,
I like to dress with loud clothing. But yeah, so I was going into my first year of pharmacy school. I still wanted to be doing stuff that was entrepreneurial, but I had taken a step back from Amazon a little bit. So I saw that as like a good opportunity to stay with like somebody who I knew business, like somebody that I would want to do business with because it wasn't like their first rodeo. So that summer, the company, what it was a lot of YouTube content and trying to teach people the stuff that they didn't know. And it was an education company at first, before I was even like heavily involved. But I remember the determining moment then was like after that summer, like accelerator program. Basically, there were other people that like were part of YouTube videos and everything, but it came down to it like, okay, are we gonna keep doing something or are we not gonna keep doing something? And you and I were like the only ones that were gonna keep doing something. And we kind of just figured it out from there. I know the obviously the commonality that we had was physical products, trying to sell physical goods. So we had both heard about like shopping on Instagram rather. So that was the interest of pursuing Instagram.
And it wasn't out, to be clear.
Right.
Like, we've always been,
it came out like a year ago in 2020.
Things that are like the futuristic is like something that you and me definitely get energized about, and identifying those opportunities. A lot of the conversation I know today will hit that, but you're exactly right. And it's funny that you say that because we're talking like, we were hoping it was Instagram checkout. Remember telling customers like way back in the day when it was Instagram stuff like 4 or 5 years ago, like, yeah, I mean, they're talking about it.
Yeah, so it's coming soon.
You know, last year, 4 years later, right?
Yeah. So that was why we started to go into Instagram. Long story short with that, we started to grow a community on Instagram because we thought we were going to be selling products to those people. People started to reach out to us though, because we were growing this Instagram account, growing this community, like, how are you doing that? And people wanted to pay us to help them consult on their Instagram accounts and help them grow their Instagram accounts. So we saw a big opportunity there. I remember the first archetype we were trying to go after was like models and modeling agencies, because we were trying to think of like, okay, who would want a lot of followers and likes on Instagram?
Who would pay for it?
Right, because it helps their business.
Who would likely have the money, and then that matters the most.
Yeah.
Kind of AKA like, who has the most ego was like our thinking at the time.
Yeah. So you had a list and you were cold calling people. I don't even remember like the exact timeline. I know that like out of the 100 calls you made though, very early on, we signed a client, and then we didn't sign another client the whole rest of that list.
Chris, it was the first call. It took 2 weeks of manual scraping, finding the biggest modeling agencies in the world. 75% at the time were in New York City.
Yeah.
And I created this, manually entered like every little box and all this different information into each one. And I'm like getting ready to cold call, and I do. And I start, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, all right, whatever. And this guy answers. His name's Fahad. Fahad, if you're listening, what's up, Canada? And we started talking, and all of a sudden we get off, and we get a sale. And I remember calling you just like pumped. I'm like, Chris, we're on to something, dude. We are on to something. And then I go right back to, we're both pumped. And I call number 2. I call number 3. Nothing. Like, they're definitely not interested. Stop wasting your time. 4 or 5. 25 later, 50. Out of that list of 100, it was only 1% conversion rate on that cold calling list.
Something.
And the funniest part is that it was the first.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so glad you said that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then from there, that kind of snowballed into that discovery that, the thing that we were going to be selling on Instagram wasn't going to be a physical product that we branded and we created, but it was going to be a service essentially. So out of like necessity for ourselves, that's kind of, I think, a big mantra of how we've built the business so far, is building things for ourselves, making it so it works really well for us, and then just seeing that need for other people, and having that capacity and skill level to be able to do it kind of on like that bleeding edge, because we're practitioners first, and then being able to package it and sell it for what it is.
Say that again. What'd you say?
We're practitioners first.
Look at the camera and explain. Just on that note, because I know this is so foundational to you and all of your success in life.
And this is like a Gary Vaynerchuk quote, but the practitioners always win is the thing that really resonated with me, and that is something that I've done naturally and didn't really have like a word for it. But the concept of practicing your craft and practicing. I'm a pharmacist, so like practicing medicine, practicing pharmacy is something that you're always doing, always getting better at. So being able to take that into the marketing world, like practicing marketing and actually practicing it, like doing the button pushing and the nitty gritty work, is something that's been foundational to us every step of the way, because we've always been able to be on the forefront. I think a lot of people stop practicing once they get to a certain part in business or in life, and that's kind of where you see things either slow down or take a step back, or other people start to catch up to them. But that was what evolved the next 3 years of Uptown creation, was Instagram growth and consulting, and being able to do that with kind of the bleeding edge tactics and techniques, and being really heavy into bots and automation early on, kind of seeing that whole ecosystem and understanding it really well, seeing the positives, the negatives, seeing it from every angle to really understand it, and then realizing that the social platforms don't like something being hooked up on the back end through an API. They don't like a bot being hooked up to somebody's account, and they'll negatively impact you for it. So knowing that, to then be able to shift everything that we were doing and put real people in all of the seats, still doing everything on Instagram, but doing it from the most genuine, authentic, and humanized way, is the long story condensed of what that 3 years was of us really heavy on Instagram. And the other thing I'll add to it then is also working with businesses and seeing that every business wants an ROI from what they're doing. Every business wants to be doing an activity that is ROI generating and is marketing efforts that actually bring something back in. When you're talking about Instagram, it's a big branding platform. So, you're putting out content, and content in general is a big branding part. And branding isn't going to be one of those things that you see that immediate 30-day ROI turnover. So realizing that that was like a little bit of a gap and knowledge that we had to provide in the sales cycle to people, I think was something that we were able to identify as a need our customer base was telling us they wanted. They wanted to generate revenue, they wanted to generate an ROI, and see that from our activities, which is what kind of set the foundation for moving into LinkedIn and other forms of direct outreach.
On that note,
yeah.
I think a big part of this is the ability to roll up your sleeves, and props to you, because you do it, and the reason why you do it so effectively now with leading the team is you lead by example too. The practitioners also lead the best, and you see those little nuances because pattern recognition from yesterday and last week, and then you have metrics to back it. So it makes total sense. Now, when you say ROI, right, every company wants to see a return on investment. If I'm going to invest in you, like any company that's going to work with Uptown, right, they're investing in us, and they want to know how much will our investors get us, and this investment bring us back. Now, if we can put $1 in a machine and it gives us $2 back, we're going to probably do that all day long, right? And that's simply put what this looks like. What you're also explaining, Chris, in a simplified way is that you're willing to roll up your sleeves. And I know that's something we've learned as a team, is rolling up your sleeves and getting heavily involved in the nitty-gritty, getting in the trenches, so to speak, allows you to start to see these opportunities and things with a different lens. You start to identify opportunities, would you say? Yeah,
I would say that 100%, because you're the one pressing the buttons, and so the patterns and the little nuances that you can only pick up from doing that activity make all the difference at the end of the day, which is why a big reason why bots and automation inherently fail is not because of them being automated or them being a bot. It's because of the inputs they have on the back end are from people that aren't actually like having conversations with people. They're not actually going back and forth and having dialogue. So then what they're putting and telling the bot to say is just this generic templated, scripted copy that they had somebody write for them that they think is an expert. And there's no like humanized aspect to it. There's no like seeing that I'm reaching out to Bob. What am I going to say to Bob because I like Bob and I want to talk to Bob? It's how can I say something that applies to Bob, Karen, Sharon, Harry, whoever. And it's really difficult to do that from an automated perspective.
I completely agree. And then just the fires that you have to put out, right? Because automation, with that, it has to adapt consistently, and most technologies can't. And I think one of the funny things you'll see is like, we just call them shortcuts, right? But shortcuts are automation, bots, Chrome extensions, and then AI, which a lot of things will brand. And you like to laugh at it because you're like, no company can afford to actually use
true AI computing power is like IBM and the big companies, and quantum computing is expensive right now. So all the companies that say they have AI don't have AI. But in the next decade, they will, which is good to be aware of because that will be something we'll be competing against in the future.
Right, and I'm sure we'll be using it.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be. Now, I'm glad you explained the origin story and like what brought it together. And I think one of the takeaways, just hearing it from you too, is that it's so much trial and error. And there have been a handful of I'll even call them opportunities, aka some people could call them adversities, where things really felt like most business owners that have been in business long enough, where you didn't know how you're gonna like make payroll, or it was gonna be very tight. It was very grim. Your timeline or your runway as a company gets, ridiculously small within a month or two, and it's like, oh shit. And when you do those enough though, and then you get through them, you start to build this confidence, and I think you start to build this grit, and then you start to build this cohesiveness in a team, like, oh shit, all right, we've gotten through that. Now that we've seen the other side and we've gone here together, we almost have like a little bit more respect for each other. Now it's like, all right, let's get to this next level.
Yeah.
And that's been a big part of it, because it's not always great. We're learning. I know that we're fortunate to get to experience this and like have a team where we're building something that we care about, and something that's authentic, I think, in a lot of ways to where we were raised in the Midwest, and the ways we were raised in our environments. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think that has been pretty pivotal, and why I respect you as a business partner, and why I like doing business together. Because we're both able to adapt, roll with the punches, but also do things that are putting other people first and not getting greedy with stuff. And obviously that's really important in any partnership or relationship. So I'm happy that we have that.
Thank you, brother. and I appreciate that, because our relationship wasn't like this early on, right? Like we weren't doing self-development work, or like we knew that there was something special, and I think Away was like a yin and yang. There were a lot of things that you didn't want to do, but you're really good at, and it just seemed to be the things that I didn't like, and the things that I did like where they happen to like complement each other. Now, was it perfect? No, but we like, you know, growing any company, you're gonna have to wear multiple hats, and sometimes you're wearing half a hat with someone else.
Right.
And the time, right? And like it's funny because you and me can sit here. Normally, it would never come up in content, but you and me know sitting in that small room in the Bell, and like when we were doing the Instagram stuff, and like the long hours,
and that's where I gained
efficiencies.
That's where I gained the first respect for you, and knew that like there was nobody else that I knew that could sit at like a desk for 16 hours and get up a couple times, but be working like 16 hours straight.
Because we had to. That was the only way our service worked at the time.
And your hustle was hard. So that was like the first thing that made me, one, like realize that there was something here that I wanted to continue to cultivate and grow, but two, like gained respect for you as a business partner, being able to see you put in those long hours and hustle the way that you do.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Because I look at you and I look at certain friends, but you especially, and I know the team does too. You work like no other. I know how hard you work, and you work smart, you work efficiently, and you genuinely enjoy your work. You enjoy your craft. Like, and you guys, I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. Knowing him for a long time, a brother for life, right?
Yes, sir.
This guy enjoys, like genuinely, his ideal weekend, and we've talked about this a lot of times over years, right? His ideal weekend is literally being able to get up and being able to work, you know, like 7 days a week. On the weekends, I think the most recent one was we both talked about, you know, ideally waking up, being able to go, like wake up on a mountain. We both like to snowboard, ski. This season we have to actually do it, right? And like wake up, go get, you know, a couple of runs in, come in, drink coffee, eat breakfast, and work. Get like 3-4 hours and go back out on the mountain, come back in. And I love that you said it. Another friend, Noah, had mentioned that too. And I've heard a couple other business owners, for whatever reason, the last 2 years, I've never heard anyone else talk about that. And I love that aspect because you're also accessing like the flow stuff, being on the mountain. You love to work, and you love to keep things simple. And I think, like Rob Sharma talks about, the most successful people in the world in any area, from an athlete to business to everything in between, an artist, a musician, they value their craft and they practice it daily. And that the outside world, we tend to look at those very elite people and go, they must live complex lives, right? Everything's gotta be so crazy for them. And the reality is the top performers, like Rob Sharma says, is that they've simplified it. Right? They've simplified their processes. And so to me, that speaks a lot on routine, a lot on the discipline side. And not to go down that, but I want to give you that respect because there's that yin and yang. And what's funny over the last 5 years, being able to work together, is the relationship has depth, or there's more depth to our relationship. And now it's rippled into like there's a team around us too, and it's incredible because they're rock stars, right? And it's like, it's crazy. We never necessarily saw it. We knew that would happen, but now how that same passion can kind of like ripple into other people. And you and me at times will look at each other, like, you know, the other partners too, are like everyone loves the company culture and things, like, you know, yeah, we've read a book or two, but it's not like we're actively implementing. And I think it's just such simple rules. I remember early on when Austin and Aaron first started working with us, we were talking about it, and it was like, you know, what's company culture like? And we kind of like looked at each other and we were like, you know, like kind of like the golden rule is how we explain it, like treat others the way you would. And that's like how simple it's been, but for whatever reason, because we value freedom and we want everyone on the team too, it's turned into something and people enjoy it. I think that's a rewarding part. I never, you know, there were a lot of jobs you and me have both worked in our life that we did not enjoy our job. It's crazy to think that we're fortunate to work with people that depend on, you know, their paychecks to feed their families and things, that actually enjoy doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of like research on company culture recently, and basically what I take away from it is that a lot of like the experts in the area will say, like, you can put whatever on a whiteboard, that wouldn't it be great if this is what we stood for, or this is what we do stand for. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't practice what you preach or actually implement that into the day-to-day, then it doesn't create a company culture. So I think that by almost not writing the rules of a company culture down is what's made it so we're able to build what works for us as a company culture and is authentic to what we are.
Right? And that was a call. So I took one call today because, you know, I've been traveling, and I took one, and that was actually the reason that they decided to work and to move forward with us today, right? And it was from having engagements with multiple interactions with multiple people, right? Had incredible things to say about Kelly, like Kelly's an absolute rock star. Tried to hire her from us, right? And that's not uncommon, right? And like Andrew too, which is awesome. And they just said it's the authenticity, and it's not like something we're going out of our way to try to prove. It's just, it's been authentic. We're not trying to prove to be something we're not. The point that I wanted to make on the team thing, and something that I don't think, I know I didn't know, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I definitely didn't know in the first few years, was when you and me and our language started to change. Whenever we had those tight moments, and even Austin, Aaron, and a lot of the team today were on and felt these experiences, but the conversation was always, okay, we talk about it, oh damn, this looks grim. 40-day window, what the hell? Like we have 40 days where everything is like off, like the company is done, right? And being able to look at each other and it's like, okay, well, what is worst case scenario? All right, well, you know, we have option A, B, C. Okay, well, worst case, yeah, well, we have a rock star team. So like, okay, worst case scenario, what we're doing right now doesn't work. But our mindset's always been, in the last couple of years especially, is we know our competitive advantage is the quality of talent and team that we have. And a lot of that allows us to like, we don't value fear, I think, like we used to, and I know I used to, because it's not about me at all. It's not about you. It's like this collective. If I'm not working, I feel selfish because it's like I'm letting the team down.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
So like the way that I've always gotten through like any of those hard times is knowing that I have a safety net in pharmacy and being able to go and work that anytime that I want. But the way that I've always thought about it is like I could go work that and just funnel all of my salary into the business if I wanted to. And then that becomes like a way to sustain the company and the business and be able to roll it in. That was always my goal in going into pharmacy and doing things, is being able to have a salary that I could roll into other things. So for me, being able to have that safety net makes it so I don't have, like, I know what my worst case scenario is. My worst case scenario is working as a pharmacist and rolling that salary back into a business until I'm able to do a business full time again. Luckily, I don't think we'll need to run into that. But
yeah, but I like that we explain this, because normally, sometimes these things won't even come up in our conversations.
Right.
And that was part of, we're like, all right, let's just get the camera. And I know this is a little bit laid back for what it normally is, but you're a busy guy and I wanted to do it. We're sitting in your apartment on the couch chilling. I'm enjoying a beverage. And I wanted it to be laid back because people see the content and they understand. And I know we're working on helping people understand why there's both of our faces on our YouTube.
Yeah.
And that we just expect the world to understand, like Conor handles the podcast and you handle the how-tos, but they don't yet. And that's on us for not communicating it. But I want them to understand, why we are both creating the content and that our values are aligned and we're creating this company with our team together and building something that is all aligned with today's conversation. And we get asked questions about, what's the story, what's this, and we can tell it, but it's different when we're together in person. Definitely. We've been trying to do this, and now we have the ability to do it. So what I also want to talk about is, for you, man, what has been a big driver? What was your childhood like? And could you talk about like the influence that your family and especially your brother has had on your life? Yeah,
definitely. So, I grew up like suburban life, middle class family, had a great childhood.
And what part? You want to name it? Schaumburg, right?
No, it's Homer Glen. So I went to Lockport Township High School, so southwest suburbs of Chicago. Growing up like within 45 minutes of downtown Chicago was awesome. Just being able to have like all of the events, any musician, airport right there. That was something I didn't realize everybody didn't have until I got to Iowa. But my mom was a dietitian, my dad was state police. My brother has cystic fibrosis, so my mom really has helped take care of my brother a lot. But that was a big part of me going into pharmacy and medicine and being interested, was my mom being a dietitian, but then also seeing kind of like firsthand how medications can help save a life. So that was always kind of like a driver for me from college standpoint. But then outside of that, like I was big into video games. We'll put this on the record now. I'm pretty sure that World of Warcraft is like how my entrepreneurial tendencies started to come out. Because I would be flipping stuff in the game. I would be selling gold at the age of like 13 and trying to sell like
you've been
World
playing
of
for
Warcraft.
almost 10 years now.
I've been playing it for like 15 years or longer.
Props.
Yeah, that's dedication.
And he has a window once a week where he gets to play like 2 hours. Is it on Tuesdays still?
Yeah.
Because if I call him on this 2 hour window, he's like, hey, I'm gaming. And I know like you only allow yourself like 2 hours and you have a girlfriend and a busy life. So props, but that's blocking schedule. You figure out ways to still get that into your life.
Yeah, but literally like that was the like safe place to test business out and to try to like make money, flip stuff, and see that like first success, I guess, that like drove me to do it more and more. And then like literally that flipped over into kind of the e-commerce aspect of what I went into in college and how I was trying to find other ways to make money. But that was always like a big part of where I had fun, was just figuring stuff out. I think like that is the thing that I'm fortunate to have, is that I like to learn a lot, and that from the outside like looks like I'm working a lot, but I'm just having fun learning about different things. Like I think the best way to describe it is I like taking like 3 months time and learning everything I can about cigars, and then I might not look at cigars for the next 9 months, but I'll kind of have that knowledge that I could pull out. And I've always thought that was cool. So I had a whiskey phase, I had a motorcycle phase, and I go through these phases of different learning, which is something that I've always really done and has been fun for me.
You definitely love it, right? And you're someone that, I don't know what your IQ is, and we don't, I don't have to guess it, but I know it's higher than most people. And I say it because even in college, dude, and it wasn't even myself when I had questions, and we had different degrees, right? We were different focuses, but even the people in the pharmacy programs, like they would come to you with essays, even though you were busy running like 4 different organizations, you know, whatever. You were in orgs, we were running a business, whether you were in an accelerator. With the entrepreneurial stuff, there's always things going on at the university, but, and you figured out how to balance it. You like to be busy, but you genuinely like to learn, and you have a mix of curiosity. And what I've noticed in getting to know you is that you don't like it. Once a loop is open, and if it's pulled you in at all, we could say it's a problem, but really it's a curiosity for you. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. And that's a lot of what business is. We have hundreds of them a day, thousands of them a week. And then there's a few that are like bigger ones where it's like, we don't know what the solution is yet. Maybe we have to test something. Like that's where it's exceptional, because it's like you just want to go and dabble. And when you do, especially in marketing and sales, you start to uncover hidden gems, right? Yeah. It's like an analogy I used last week, and I don't even know if it's a good one, but very similar to most things in sales and marketing. You're setting up a system, you want to bring an ROI in, you want to bring customers in. It's going to take a certain period of time for it to start working, and this machine works. Now, you could view it as, all right, you and me, we're cash tight, but we want to start our own oil company. We're going to start drilling oil, but we can only afford one drill right now. We're down in Texas, and we're like looking around in this 100 square mile desert, right? And we're like, all right, well, this according to what we think and what we know, this has got to be the best spot. So we just put it down. All of our money's gone, right? And our goal is just to get a little bit. If we get a drop of oil, all right, that means there's something more, right? And the second we get that drop, now we validate, all right, we know there's oil in here. Now it's easier to get a team on board. Yeah. Or in the oil sense, like an investment, and we can bring people around it. And in the sales world, what's really exciting is once you find it or you strike gold, there's a lot more. And then you just start building. Once we know, now you just start building, and you build out these systems, and you have these machines that save you time and allow your team to enjoy their days and life a little bit more too.
Yeah.
And we're learning this.
And then as you grow those things, there's always going to be like a lagging piece that is the most likely to break, and then that's where your attention can go. And I think that's why I've fallen in love with business, and always has, is business is just a subset of problems that you need to find solutions to, and you can be as creative as you want to find those solutions, and there is no single right way of doing stuff. And as long as you have the ethics and the morals behind it, that sets the foundation for whatever business or whatever thing you're gonna do, and then the way that you solve those problems is gonna fall back on those moral ethics, not finding loopholes that are too crazy and unethical, but that allows you to propel forward them, essentially.
Yeah, and just daily practice. And it's like getting rid of the failure mindset at all. Like that never comes up in anyone's conversations, like on the team or anything. And I know that was something that we had to like get through. Everyone has to go through in different phases, but then you get to a point where it starts to turn into a curiosity. And then you start to, patch that with, for me, it was self-development. For you, it was learning other skills. And I think self-development in a way could be a skill. But what's nice is because we've both taken slightly different paths in regards to how we invest, I think that shows up in how we lead. And like where it's a lot of the practitioner and a lot of my passion in self-development and like, I don't know whether we want to say like leading or hopefully creating influence. If John Maxwell says it's influence is the definition of a leader, and you and me want to practice what we're doing, lead by example.
Definitely.
That might be the right direction. I want to open up the wild hour because it won't actually be an hour, but I know you and me get really excited about what the future looks like. And we try to live in the present because we're happy people, but if we were to lean to a side, it's almost always the future.
Yeah.
And assessments always put you and me in the innovative, like futuristic categories. What are you the most excited for in the blockchain? I know you've done a lot of research, a lot of work in this space.
Yeah.
I'm going to check the camera too, but take over because it might have a 40-minute timer.
For sure.
And we don't have a camera person.